Today, in our first of our series of spotlight videos, we're going to be talking about Matt the Terra Serra, whose nickname makes a lot more sense when you think about him saying in his thick Long Island accent. Matt Serra tends to unfortunately get left off of the list of a lot of other American Jiu-Jitsu pioneers, but let's not forget, he's Renzo Gracie's first American black belt. And secondly, although his career mainly took place in the late 90s, early 2000s as sport competition goes, he participated in a lot of MMA fights. And at the era that Matt Serra started with, there wasn't this big distinction between sport jiu-jitsu and Vale Tudo and mixed martial arts, whatever you had it called at that time. Basically, when you entered the academy at that point, you were looking to learn how to fight. But he certainly has some big titles to his credit. He has a Pan American win in 1999 at the Purple Belt division, which remember, there weren't that many high-ranked Americans at that point. He took third place at Brown Belt at the Worlds in 2000 in Brazil, which is a major accomplishment, and probably the biggest feather in this cap. He has the ADCC second place at 2001, whereas he beat the likes of Leo Santos, Takanori Gomi, Jean-Jacques Machado before forfeiting his match to Marcio Feitosa. I know this might be hard to believe if you've only seen footage of him in the last couple of years, but I would describe Matt Serra as being one of the most acrobatic jiu-jitsu practitioners of all. Scotty Nelson, my partner with OTM, always used to remark how Matt moved like a cat. Furthermore, Matt schools the old generation of jiu-jitsu. He had that go for broke style, and honestly we were taught that if you didn't get the submission, it didn't really count. I don't think I've ever watched a boring Matt Serra match. How good was Matt Serra actually? Well, if the reputation of being Renzo Gracie's first American Jiu-Jitsu black belt wasn't enough for you, you can take a look at the quality of his competition. His victories over Jean-Jacques Machado, over Leo Santos, a very close match against Lee Zeno at the North Carolina Pro-Ams, which I'll provide a link to below, and that match that he had against Feitosa. Those are some of the names that were among the best of the era, and I would argue that Matt Serra was right in there in the mix with those guys. Now we can also talk about Matt Serra's MMA career, which is fair because I think that's what most people know him for. And if you look at it, he has a TKO victory over George St. Pierre for the title, which at the time a lot of people thought was a fluke, but those of us that knew exactly how talented and special Matt Serra wasn't a huge shock to us either. He also has a decision loss against a prime BJ Penn, and I can honestly say this being close to both parties, I thought Matt might have done enough to get the decision win in that case. At any rate, I don't think his official record of 11-7 accurately reflects how good Matt Serra was, or really lets you know how razor thin most of those decision losses were. Matt's gone on to open up 2 successful schools in Long Island. He's coached a number of MMA fighters, including world champions such as Chris Weidman, and he pals around with Dana White on a series of television shows. I can also honestly tell you that Matt Serra is probably the funniest human being I've ever met in my entire life. Nobody can quite tell a story like Matt, but at the same time, he's always one to get to the point. He'll tell you exactly what he thinks. Okay? Out of that generation, I think he's one of the best examples of Italian Americans as opposed to, say, these folks. Now coming up, we have our interview and highlight footage that we put together back in 2001, which was originally included on American Penetration, a VHS tape that OTM put out. Here you can see a young Matt Serra. You can see like the skill levels and things that we talked about, things leading on to his career in MMA. And once he hit the UFC, he never really went back to his submission grappling career. Although I have to say that I like the idea of retired fighters coming back to submission grappling in jiu-jitsu, and if there was ever a legend super fight, Matt Serra would be at the very top of my list of guys I'd like to see compete. At any rate, enjoy the clip.
George, we've got freestyle grappling here, and it's going to be Matt Serra, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting match. Folks, keep your eyes open. Can't end up on the canvas or standing up. Either way, it's going to be a good fight. Let's go to ringside.
My name is Matt Serra. I'm a black belt on the Renzo Gracie. I've been training a little bit over 6 years now. I like training both gi. I probably prefer the no gi more, only because I use the gi more as a tool for fighting. I like the Worlds, I like the Pan Ams, and I've done well in those. And I'll probably compete in those in the future, but I like the fighting aspect. I like the no rules, mixed martial arts, or even the submission fighting, jiu-jitsu competitions without the gi. I like that. I like the fighting. If I use the gi, I use it as a training tool. As well with the gi, I fought in Brazil in the world, brown belt, I fought in Brazilian there. And I beat him on points. He was definitely the most technical, probably the highest level. But it's one of those things where I think I will. I think it was a great experience, and I will do better next time I fight him. I think it'll be another nice match. We fight again. I mean, when I fought, the difference between the Brazilians and the Americans, like I just won the Abu Dhabi Invitational, I fought 4 Americans. I'm sorry, 3, and I submitted them all. Just a little newer to the game, man. I fought 3 no-rules guys, you know? The 2 of them fighting Judo, one of them just fought in the UFC, CJ Fernandez. And they're all tough, you know, they're tough as nails. And the submission fighting is different than no rules. You know, you have to have a strategy. You know, you gotta be a better grappler, and you have to have submission down and keep a cool head under pressure. So it's different. I don't think they're used to that. I think if they ever get you stressed, they'll just start swinging, you know? So that was the difference between fighting some of the Americans and the Brazilians.
George Strickland, Lou Neglia, and Matt Serra. How you doing tonight?
Very good, focused.
Lou has some questions for you.
Matt, we want to know how you're feeling, for this particular fight, and how has your training been going mainly for this particular fight?
It's good. I'm training hard. I mean, Renzo puts me through the paces at the academy in New York, and I take every fight like it's the toughest guy in the world. So
And he is
I train
a
my
pretty tough
butt off.
opponent. That's what
I know.
the rumors
That's-
around that he's here to
He's here
show
to-
his stuff for sure.
That's okay, because I'm here to fight. I'm here to go to war.
Like, this interview's gonna be worth something someday. That's what I'm talking about.